Today on an all-new Dr. Phil. Arrested, then released.
Critics say the law has made New York more dangerous.
Only to commit another crime.
This is not working. The criminals are taking over.
You shouldn't have a different type of justice just because you're poor.
That 16-year-old was charged with stealing a backpack, and he's 3 years in jail.
We've been doing it your way, and it's been locking up our people.
We are all the same people.
Today's going to be a changing day in your life. You've never had anybody working harder to bring you to the threshold of change than right now. Well, I want you to imagine that your daughter is confronted at work by a bank robber who had just been released from police custody days earlier. How would you feel about that? He just got out of jail. How about a man accused of luring your underage daughter to his home to try to have sex with her, is caught by police, but then let go immediately pending trial? Well, perpetrators like these were released due to one of the most divisive and controversial social issues in the country today, bail reform. It effectively means 90% of the arrested population, people charged with offenses like aggravated assault on a child, stalking, and even criminally negligent homicide, must be released back onto the streets immediately, and there is nothing judges can do to stop it. It's important that you pay attention today, as what we are about to discuss will affect you in some way. Now, the recent changes to the conventional method of how defendants are released have been making national news. Take a look.
Is the bail system rigged against the poor?
Controversy over a new criminal justice reform.
New York's bail reform law takes effect.
Cash bail will no longer be required for most misdemeanors and nonviolent felonies like selling drugs or burglarizing a home.
Supporters say the old system unfairly targeted the poor.
Khalif Browder sat in a Rikers Island cell for 3 years. Accused of stealing a backpack, Khalif took his own life after his release. Critics say the law has made New York more dangerous, allowing hardened criminals to be set free.
New video tonight, police say, shows a man beating his girlfriend in a violent attack.
But after the man was captured, officials say they had to let him go without bail.
The key controversy is that in many cases, judges will not have discretion to hold suspects in custody, even if there's evidence the person is a danger to the victim or the public.
Now, Khalif Browder was 16 years old when he was arrested in 2010 for allegedly stealing a backpack. Now, he was 16. He was charged with robbery, grand larceny, and assault. Bail was set at $3,000. The family could not afford that. They just didn't have the money. Take a look at what happened.
Khalif Browder's story helped spark the bail reform movement.
I speak for my brother and for those that have been through the injustice system.
Akeem's brother, Khalif Browder, sat in a Rikers Island cell for 3 years, most of that in solitary confinement, accused of stealing a backpack when he was 16. Khalif took his own life 2 years after his release. The fact that a celebrity like Harvey Weinstein can make bail on rape charges, but someone like Khalif Browder can languish away in jail on theft charges, highlights the importance of bail reform.
Well, we'll be meeting Khalif's brother, Akeem Browder, very soon. But first, I want you to meet two judges who are in direct opposition to each other when it comes to bail reform. Now, Judge Rosemarie Aquilina. Now, Judge Aquilina has been here before. She is a Michigan judge who first gained national attention for her handling of sports doctor Larry Nassar's sentencing hearing. She says she opposes bail reform because it forces judges to release people who run the risk of reoffending. Judge Daryl Jordan from Houston, Texas, says he supports bail reform and has made national headlines for wanting to abolish the cash bail system that he believes to be unjust. So please welcome these two very distinguished judges. So, Judge, let me start with you. Tell me why you favor bail reform.
First and foremost, I believe in the Constitution and the 14th Amendment, which requires that people be treated equally. If I can give you an example, say I'm a student at American College of Healthcare, and it's exam week. And so I say, Lisa, can you give me a ride to Target? I need to buy some goods. Now, Lisa has a car, but she's poor. I have money, but my parents just didn't buy me a car. We go to Target. She goes and buys produce. I start stealing. I meet her in the produce section. We walk out together. Under the law of parties, most likely both of us are going to be arrested and taken down to the county jail. Now, keep in mind, Lisa's poor, so every day that she's in jail, the tow fees on her car is going up, and it's finals week. We get to court. They give me a $5,000 bail. I simply call my parents. I go home. I'm guilty. Lisa's innocent. She stays in jail all weekend. On Monday, her defense attorney comes back and talks to her, and she says, well, I wasn't with Daryl, I was getting kale. And so I don't know what he was doing. We walked out together. He says, well, great, we can get the video. She says, well, that's awesome, the case will be dismissed. Then the lawyer says, well, yeah, that's gonna take 60 to 90 days before the video gets here. And so she has to sit in jail for 60 to 90 days. She flunks out of college, she loses her car, she gets evicted from her apartment, and the only difference between us, I had money and she didn't. That's not the way our criminal justice system should work. Money should allow you to have better clothes, a better car, a better house, but you shouldn't have a different type of justice just because you're poor.
Okay, well said. You think bail reform is a bad idea because it puts dangerous people back on the street, correct?
Correct. What should happen is that these people should appear in front of a judge and there should be a lethality assessment made, meaning that we should look at, will they appear in court again? And are they a danger to themselves or the community or the victim? But crime does not have a wallet. It doesn't have a sexual preference. It doesn't have a gender. It doesn't have a race. It's about safety.
Well, when we do what we're talking about with bail reform, what you're basically saying is the judge has no discretion.
Right.
If you bring these people in front of you and you decide that he's the problem and she's not, you have no choice. You still have to let both of them walk under bail reform. And you're saying you have no confidence in the judge's ability to make a decision.
What my focus is, once you set a dollar amount to somebody's release, you're telling people that person is now safe. And so if me and Lisa are arrested and we have a $10,000 bond, why do I need a special assessment to determine if I'm dangerous or not? Because if I had 10,000, I'm safe. Now, if all dangerous people stayed in jail, I'm all for that. But to give one person a bond and let them go home and the poor person stay because they're poor, then that's wrong. That's not a safety issue, that's a money issue.
Well, I don't dispute that whatsoever. What I'm asking is, you're willing to take the discretion out of the hands of the judge and legislate it before anybody ever gets to the courtroom.
Well, this system has been in place hundreds of years, and the reason that in New York they had to go change the laws is because the judges wouldn't follow the laws.
That's not exactly correct. In New York, it was based on money, not safety. They need to add the plus safety factor. That was the problem in New York. We're talking about safety. There is no cure for dead. And so if anyone wants to look at safety, if we're going to release someone who commits a crime and who's escalating, and we know the history, your next question when they're released and something happens to your family is, why'd you release them? You knew this.
Rich people had bail reform already, so they got out and went home. The only difference now is poor people are put in the same position as rich people.
And later, what was it like when you went to visit your kid brother?
He was definitely starting to change. You have to fight for your life. You have to become a gladiator.
According to recent reports, in June of last year, 49-year-old Charles E. Torrance was charged with second-degree sexual assault and second-degree endangerment of a child after luring an underage girl to his home to have sex with her. He was being held in custody pending trial, but because of the new bail reform laws that passed in January of this year, he was released in February. Torrance failed to appear for a scheduled proceeding recently and was a fugitive until he was tracked down in Philadelphia and extradited back to New Jersey. As my understanding is, bail reform says you don't let out everybody, you just let out people that are nonviolent crimes and certain categories of crimes, right? But how does that apply to sexual assault?
That's a violent crime in my book, isn't it?
I mean, how did they decide what goes under this and what doesn't?
And this isn't a popular answer, but myself and the judge are both required to uphold that people are innocent unless they are proven guilty. And you as the public don't have to, but we have to. And so you can't punish somebody for a crime that they haven't been convicted of. Now, if you tell me that everybody charged with sexual assault is held in custody and there's no amount of money that will get you out, then that's fine. That's equality for everybody. But the minute you say, if you have $50,000, you go home, and if you don't have $50,000, you stay in jail, what you are telling the public is that money makes you safe.
Okay, what do you want to say?
I just want to, that is not correct. I do personal recognizance bonds, which are zero bonds all the time for people who can't afford it in those situations, but I put safeguards because I do that lethality assessment. I put GPS tethers, I make them check in. I have all sorts of things. If they're ill, I have them take their medication so that they are not a danger. I put them under house arrest. So the wallet does not drive this, safety does. What is a life worth?
Well, I can come sit on the same side because you believe what I believe. Conditions make people safe. Money plays zero role. Whether you pay $1 or $1 million, that makes no difference. Exactly what you just said. Conditions of release make people safer. So when we argue about bail reform, rich people had bail reform already because they were born with money or parents worked and had money, so they got out and went home. The only difference now is poor people are put in the same position as rich people. That's it.
When he came out in 2013, Khalif was not the same Khalif. The damage that was already done was not just physical, it was mental. I think it's fair to say that Khalif wouldn't have committed suicide if we had bail reform that we have today.
And later, were you told that he was released?
Yeah, through a text message.
What was your reaction?
I was horrified. We can't believe that he's out.
16-year-old Khalif Browder was walking home from a party in the Bronx when he was stopped by the police and arrested for robbery.
There was a guy in one of their police cars that was saying that I allegedly robbed them. Then they said, we're gonna take you to the precinct, and I never went home. There was times when I had cried myself to sleep. But at the time, I was put in solitary confinement. After a while, I just gave up hope. At one point, I tried to kill myself. I had ripped my bed sheets and made a noose out of it, and I had hung it to something that's on the ceiling. I was about to jump, and the correction officers they opened my cell, and when I jumped, they grabbed me, they cut me down.
After 33 months, they come to Khalif and offer him a plea deal. You made a decision that you were going to fight this.
Because I know deep down inside in my heart, if I just cop out and say that I did it, nothing's gonna be done about it. I didn't do it, no justice is served, nobody hears nothing at all. I felt like I had to fight. I had to fight.
Well, that was an interview with Khalif Browder taken less than 2 years before he took his own life. Now imagine terror of watching a judge send your 16-year-old brother to one of the most violent jails in the country, where he is beaten, starved, and isolated for years. Now, he was there for 3 years. 2 of those were in solitary. Now, his crime, not murder, not terrorism. It was this 16-year-old kid that stole a backpack.
I'm Akeem Browder. Khalif Browder was my brother. My brother, Khalif, took his life after 3 years of wrongful incarceration for a crime he didn't commit. When he came out in 2013, Khalif was not the same Khalif. The damage that was already done was not just physical, it was mental, emotional, psychological. When Khalif came home, he tried to go back to normal society, or quote-unquote normal society. So he went to college. That was when Khalif became more paranoid at the thought that he could easily be taken back to jail. After Khalif's death, I began advocating for bail reform. I wouldn't allow my brother's death to be in vain. I formed a grassroots organization called Shut Down Rikers, and I started going to town halls.
My brother's story actually touched the heart of a lot of elected officials, but we have to keep on going.
I hold the entire system of incarceration, the school-to-prison pipeline, for the death of my brother. I think it's fair to say that Khalif wouldn't have committed suicide if we had bail reform that we have today.
Well, Akeem, first off, I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
What was it like when you went to visit your kid brother?
My brother, he was definitely starting to change. He was progressing to be what that jail makes you out to be, a hardened lifestyle that you have to fight for your life. In that situation, Rikers Island is like many other jails. It's the corruption, the culture of violence. It predicates that you have to become a gladiator. And Khalif, either you get swallowed up in that system and you become a victim, or you become the fighter that tries to survive while you're fighting for your justice.
And the bail was $3,000, right?
True.
You had to come up with $3,000?
Yes.
And your family eventually did come up with the $3,000, but then they said no.
Yeah, basically.
They won't take the $3,000.
The $3,000 we got 2 weeks later, and the bail bonds company that we went to in the Bronx, they turned away from the bail because they said he had a prior charge, which was joyriding in a bread truck that him and his friends did. Khalif was on probation, and this charge, felonious as it was, it was one of the things that kept him in jail in Rikers.
So he stayed in Rikers for 3 years, and they kept offering him plea deals, but he wouldn't take them because he said, I didn't do this.
Exactly.
They offered him 5 different plea deals, and he said, no, 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 I'm not going to plead to something I didn't do. Now, Judge Rosemarie is really against bail reform and thinks judges should have discretion. What do you say to judges that oppose bail reform?
I would say look at it this way. Where did bail start? The history of bail is they used bail to capture escaped slaves. And what we find in our system today is predominantly black and brown folk in jail, accused of a crime, not in prison where they're sentenced and they are already taken a plea bargain or found guilty, but they're accused of a crime. That means they are innocent until proven guilty. We use that same age-old practice of bail, which we used back in the days when they were slaves, furthermore, keeping them being enslaved and taking away their freedom, taking away their ability to get true justice. And so we project them to the public as criminals. They're not criminals. They're accused until proven guilty. They are detainees, actually.
Your brother, and I'm terribly sorry for your loss. First of all, we should not have 16-year-olds in jail. The average stay on Rikers is 42 days. If you're mentally ill, the average stay of a mentally ill person at Rikers is 215 days, 5 times that.
Yes.
Your brother was 5 times, with 3 years, 5 times that of a mentally ill person, and 26 times more than the average stay of the 42 days. Now, he never should have been there, but there needs to be a different place for minors. There needs to be assessments that include addressing homelessness, that address mentally ill. We need to start over.
Yeah.
This law, though, that only addresses no bail and not safety, is a problem and is overreaching and will cause more problems.
When you say safety, we have to understand the metrics of safety. So predominantly, when you're talking about safety, are you talking about, which in New York, maybe not in your state, but in New York, they're conditioning safety upon the person's job status or the person's living conditions as far as are they homeless or not? Or do they have enough money or family that can support? This is not metrics for safety. This is metrics for racial bias.
We have another story to examine. The family of a young man who died in a car crash caused by a drunk driver is outraged because that driver is walking free right now due to bail reform. We'll talk about that after the break.
The defendant was speeding. This guy ran several stop signs, had over twice the legal limit of alcohol in his system, had drugs in his system, and he is free, and my nephew Jade is dead. The laws need to go back to what they were. This is ridiculous.
As you can imagine, these reforms have made a lot of people angry, including my next guest, who not only has to live with the loss of her nephew, who died in a car crash caused by a drunk driver, but also has to face the prospect of bumping into this person in her neighborhood as he was released without bail last week.
My nephew Jade was killed, and his defendant is free because of this new bail reform. The night my nephew was killed, he was in the car with 4 people, one being the accused defendant. They ran into another car. The defendant was speeding. This guy ran several stop signs, had over twice the legal limit of alcohol in his system, had drugs in his system, and he is free, and my nephew Jade is dead. My nephew was partially ejected from the sunroof and was killed pretty much instantly. After about 6 weeks, the defendant was finally arrested and he went right to jail. He was charged with 4 counts of vehicle homicide and 1 count of assault. Now, the defendant was released under the new New York State bail reform laws that took place January 1st, 2020. He was released just February 13th at 5:23 from prison. The defendant actually lives in the same small town, and I'm scared to run into him. Jade deserves justice. My nephew was 25 at the time of his death. He was a caring, young, talented musician that had his whole life ahead of him. Can anybody believe that this guy is actually free after everything he has done? He is a danger to society. The laws need to go back to what they were. This is ridiculous.
Well, Tina joins us in the audience now, so welcome, Tina.
Hi.
And let me begin by saying I'm very sorry for your loss. You say that this individual was released under bail reform. Were there any conditions of his release that you're aware of?
I was told they took his passport, that's it.
But with bail reform, there aren't conditions, they're just released, right?
Right.
The judge doesn't have the discretion to, like, take driver's license, suspend that until this is tried or cleared up or whatever.
Well, people can get conditions. I read the articles. One judge ordered somebody to do a mental health evaluation. But in a case like this, when we say go back to the old system was pay money and go home. So and it doesn't matter what the charge is. The old system was you could be charged with murder, like shooting somebody, and if you paid money, you go home. That's our old system. So it's not detain people without bail.
The new system is commit crime and go home, and commit crime and go home again, and commit crime and go home again.
Are you saying that when people get arrested, that they've committed a crime? Is that what you're saying? Because you're a judge.
It's innocent until proven guilty. However, there is the safety factors, and I've explained that previously. You know, I am nonpartisan. I don't know whose party you belong to and if this is a party line, but I'm talking about safety that affects everybody, and we have to make lethality assessments. I have exactly, and I'm so sorry for your loss, I had exactly this identical case on my docket this year, and the gentleman got out, didn't have a driver's license, a couple of weeks later killed a second person. He is now in prison.
On bail reform?
He was not on bail reform.
So
it was
paid
just
money.
on.
He paid money and got out and did it. Thank you for proving my point.
Bond.
Thank you.
He had a PR bond.
Who gave it to him?
The district judge gave him that, and then he killed a second person within a couple of weeks.
Were you told that he was released?
Yeah, through a text message.
From?
From the jail.
Okay, so they did tell you that, that he was out. What was your reaction?
I was horrified. We can't believe that he's out. We still can't believe that he's out.
There's a system in place to pit people like you against me, and not people of a race or any, but your position of understanding what bail is and mine, and we're families of loss. And yet we're pit against each other as though we're supposed to be fighting against, we're both families of loss. I lost my mother through what happened to Khalif, and I lost my youngest brother. You lost a family member as well. I'm sorry for that.
Our criminal justice system should not reflect that you can have money and be treated one way, and if you don't have money, you get treated another way. That's bail reform. That's what it's all about.
And your point is, someone could... And your point is, if this man's family had money, she could run into him the same way if he's released on bail reform, because they could bail him out and she could run into him anyway.
Rich people have been running into other rich people all their lives. The only thing that's changed now is poor people have been included.
This is about safety across the board for everybody, not rich, poor, black, white, transgender, whatever. This is about safety.
Well, next, a man carried out 6 bank robberies in 2 weeks. He was reportedly released under a new bail reform law. We'll be talking about how on earth that happened next.
Money is a deterrent to crime. If you can't swim, don't jump in the river. If you're poor, then quit stealing.
Just days after New York State's bail reform law took effect, some lawmakers say the new policy may need some tweaking.
This man, Gerard Woodbury, arrested for robbing 4 banks in the city and in Brooklyn. A judge released Woodbury, and days later, police say he was back at it.
We've taken away the discretion that judges have to consider the danger these folks might be to public safety.
We're talking about the outrageous sentencing that judges sometimes give as a result of the controversial bail reform laws popping up nationwide, one of which led to the release of Jared Woodbury, a 6-time bank robber who stole $2,000 from banks in New York, but was released with no bail. Now, sitting on stage with me now are 2 judges, and we also are adding world-famous bounty hunter Duane Dog Chapman. Now, also joining us via Skype is, in New York, is Michelle Eskenazi, owner of one of the state's largest bail bond agencies. Thank you guys for being here.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And y'all have opinions about this, obviously. You've been listening to everything that we've been talking about. Michelle, let me start with you. You've been listening. What do you have to add to this conversation?
The first thing that comes to my mind is that we're not talking about habitual offenders, and we're never talking about victims, which is the other side of this argument, is that bail always ensures a victim his or her day in court by making sure that that defendant shows up for court so that Dog the bounty hunter doesn't have to go out and look for them, right, Dog?
Right.
Yeah, so what's your position on this? I assume you're not a big proponent of bail reform.
No, sir, not at all. So first of all, my qualifications are 41 years in the justice system, over 8,000 arrests, and 10 years on the other side. The law says bail is a continuance of the original imprisonment. This is not working. That's why we're here. I'm sorry, but money is a deterrent to crime. If you're poor, if you can't swim, don't jump in the river. If you're poor, then quit stealing. Go get a job. Thank you. It doesn't matter if you get robbed by a rich guy or a poor guy, you still got robbed. Where's the victim? Criminal justice system is exactly that. The criminals are taking over the justice system.
Well, let me ask you this. You look at this gentleman's brother, you can say somebody should have done this, somebody should have done that, but they didn't.
Yes, sir.
And that 16-year-old kid sat in Rikers for 3 years, getting abused by the guards, getting abused by the inmates, getting stuck in solitary confinement at 16 years old because they didn't have the money the day he was there. He stole a backpack if he's guilty.
Terrible.
That's if he's guilty. And I'm not saying he's guilty, but he was charged with stealing a backpack. A backpack. and he's 3 years in jail.
And where's the juvenile detention center?
Exactly.
Why was he put in an adult center? And every day they count, what, 3-4 times a day? Where's the guard that was there that was counting him? Where's his lawyer at?
And where's the mandatory reporting if he was being abused? Where are those charges? Have they been filed?
We are both judges. We believe, by law, we have to believe you are innocent unless proven guilty. The county that I'm from, Harris County, has freed more people wrongfully convicted than any other country. I'm comparing my county to other countries.
Right.
Off of death row and everything else.
Right.
And so how does that happen? When we take people and we treat them like criminals when they're just been accused. Anybody in this audience, any one of us can be accused of a crime when we leave here. It doesn't mean that we did it.
Charles Berry has been arrested over 130 times, as well as committing 6 felonies, 87 misdemeanors, and missed 21 court hearings. He reportedly told journalists while being arrested for the 139th time, bail reform is lit. You can't touch me, I can't be stopped. Now, this is a guy that is exploiting the system, and that's not the person that you're trying to balance the scales for. This guy is probably mentally ill. Yeah. He's probably going to do what he's going to do regardless of what legislation you pass. But this is the poster child that people are going to put up against bail reform. And he probably needs to be in a treatment center, not in jail, right?
I agree with everything you said. I think we're all on the same page.
But this reform empowers him to continue and now to thumb his nose at law enforcement, not consider the victim, and it's because he was robbing and it wasn't violent. Well, let me tell you, think about the victim who's placed in fear. That is violence.
And my only retort would be, if this guy has 132 arrests and he picks up 6 more, it's not bail reform. You know, somewhere along the line.
This happened under your bail reform that you're supporting.
No, but no, what I mean is.
There'll be more.
What about the 132 arrests? What about those? I mean, the sentencing
132 under your bail reform
shouldn't even be free.
Up next, a man in Brooklyn is thrown into jail on $1,500 bail for holding a straw. Now, we'll be talking about how that happened after the break. Okay, I want you to picture this scene. You're minding your own business. You're talking with friends. You're about to take a sip from a can of soda using a straw. You put the straw in the can. You're ready to take a sip, when all of a sudden a police officer apprehends you and arrests you. Why? Well, for suspected possession of drug paraphernalia. Because get this, according to the cop, straws are a commonly used method of packaging heroin residue. That's exactly what happened to Tyrone Tomlin in November of 2014. He was thrown into jail because he couldn't pay the $1,500 bail set by the judge. Now, had bail reform been in operation, he would have never gone to jail. He was eventually released 3 weeks later after the drug test on the straw came back inconclusive, but not before he was brutally beaten up in jail. Now, joining us via Skype is Jessica Ramos, a New York State senator who supports bail reform. Also joining us via Skype is Nicole Maliotakis, who serves in the New York State Assembly. Now, she says she opposes bail reform. Jessica, let me start with you. You've been listening to everything we've been talking about. What do you have to add to all of this?
That I think, by and large, we've been utilizing our jail system and the prison industrial complex in general to warehouse people, human beings, because I think we often forget they are human beings, who really are devoid of services like mental health services, which I was very happy has finally come up. I think by and large people commit crimes because of mental illness or out of necessity.
Assemblywoman Nicole, is it fair that this man spent 3 weeks in jail when it was determined ultimately he did nothing wrong?
No, look, absolutely, it was not okay, and it wasn't okay for Khalif Browder to sit in jail over a backpack. But in this New York bail law that's been implemented January 1st, we're not talking about just those, minor first-time offenders or low-level offenses. We're talking about serious crimes, and yes, violent crimes, assault, aggravated assault of a child, vehicular manslaughter, killing someone with your car when you're drunk driving, criminally negligent homicide. We had somebody who slit his girlfriend's throat and then was released January 1st because he could no longer be held. What the issue with New York's law is that it doesn't consider dangerousness, it doesn't consider criminal history, and certainly we should be ensuring that everyone receives their right to a speedy trial, but this law doesn't do that.
This shocking footage was just weeks ago in New York. A young man physically attacked an ex-girlfriend at their place of work and brought a knife with him.
We begin tonight with new video police say shows a man beating his girlfriend in a violent attack.
But after the man was captured, officials say they had to let him go without bail.
Police say Vasquez Paulino is seen punching his girlfriend 4 times in a hallway before taking a 12-inch kitchen knife from his backpack and slipping it up his shirt. Vasquez Paulino was arrested and charged with 4 misdemeanors, but under the state's new bail reform, they're unable to protect the victim.
Misdemeanors.
Now, shouldn't this man have been kept in custody with no bail until trial, or conditions put on him in some way to protect this victim?
Yes to the second part. He should have had conditions upon his release. And keep in mind, what they said he was charged with were misdemeanors. There's a whole lot of issues that go on with this. The criminal justice system as a whole, some would argue, needs to be overhauled.
Amen.
This is a constant work that we are doing.
The fact that he punches the girlfriend, which we saw, okay, and then he has a knife, there'd have to be a consideration. What's his background, and is he escalating? And is there a safety issue? What are we going to do about that? Because misdemeanor, felony, those get changed all the time. It doesn't matter. Let's look at safety, and let's look at that victim and the fear she must feel.
We've been doing it your way for centuries, and it's been locking up our people. But
we are all the same people.
No. First of all, we're not all the same people because our class system changes our status.
How many of you, just in general, would say you support bail reform? Raise your hand. How many of you would say, no, I'm against bail reform? Raise your hand. Okay. A lot of you aren't voting. How many of you think a primary determinant should be the safety of the victim that brings the charges? Raise your hand. Okay, everybody agrees with that. Huh.
Not everybody.
I'm saying money shouldn't play a factor. So if it's safety, then keep everybody. But if Dr. Phil is charged with a crime and I'm charged with a crime, Dr. Phil shouldn't get to go home. I'm assuming you got a lot of money. You shouldn't get to, you shouldn't get to go home because you have money and I have to stay because I'm poor. That is simply it. And so unless you believe in a discriminatory practice where rich are treated one way and poor are treated the same, then you are for bail reform.
The bail reform in New York does not consider safety. Let's consider safety, and hallelujah.
I live in Texas. We consider safety. So
you're not even a part of writing the bill in New York. How could you say that? We did, but it's not the metrics you want.
Because I saw what was
it's
passed.
Not the metrics
Have you read what
want.
was passed? Have you seen what's implemented and what's gone on? 90% of people were released.
And you did not. So let's just keep it to facts.
I wouldn't claim that.
I am keeping it to facts, and I understand the definitions.
We did not allow for violent crimes.
All right, we're out of time. I want to thank my guests today. Don't forget to visit my website, drphil.com, for extra content. And you can follow me on social media where this conversation, I'm sure, is going to rage on. You can't miss me. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We'll be talking about it on all places. Speaking of Twitter, before I go, I have a question from one of my viewers on Twitter. Nicole asked, is there just one simple thing each of us can do to help improve our justice system? If so, what is it? Well, I just said, when you talk about electing these judges that sit at this trial level, You need to take that seriously and find out who these people are, what their values are, what they believe, because oftentimes we go in and you vote for these top positions. You vote for senator, you vote for president or whatever, and the judges you don't really pay attention to. You need to pay attention to who these judges are. Elect those people that you truly know something about and believe in. We'll see you next time. Judge Dale, thank you.